Modoc County Sheriff's Deputy Jack Hopkins was many things to many people: a son, a brother, a fighter, and a peacemaker. But everyone agreed that Jack was the kind of guy who you could ask anything of, and he would help you if he could. In the end, he would even give his life to keep his community safe. The fairgrounds is packed, but the atmosphere is somber.
We will always remember you for your kindness and your peaceful character.
Hundreds of officers from dozens of different places around the country are all here to honor a fallen brother. Even some officers from Chicago, Texas, and New York. But the sound of the bagpipes rings the loudest for the folks of Siskiyou and Modoc County.
There are way too many of these in my career. Never from the side of the podium that I was at tonight.
Sheriff Poindexter says his department is still struggling with the loss.
Actually, this call should have been mine, and that's a tough thing for me. Jack was supposed to be in court.
I asked Sheriff Poindexter if he would trade places with Jack if he could. He replied without hesitation.
In a second.
A dedicated servant, Jack led by example.
He kind of got me into it. He told me he wanted to go, and I thought about it, and I said, I'm going to go with you.
Jack and his brother Sam went together to the Butte Law Enforcement Academy and both found jobs in Northern California. Sam says the last time they spoke, they were both on the graveyard shift, keeping order.
And I called him up, and he said, what are you doing? And I said, I'm blacked out watching a stop sign, waiting for someone to run a stop sign. Not much going on. And I said, what are you doing? He was doing the exact same thing in a different county.
Now the majority of his academy class helped to lay the dirt on his final resting place, an end of watch that never really ends for his family.
Wanting it all to be over, and I want to get back in the squad car and go back out on patrol and just get back to work.
Jed Morgan is a corporal with the U.S. Marines, and almost 4 years ago, his legs were blown off by an IED while serving in Afghanistan. Now, an NFL star is helping make Jed's home easier for him to get around in. Newswatch shows that Spencer Wilson was at the groundbreaking ceremony and shows us how Jed's new home will make his new life more comfortable.
A big part of the new house is making it easier for Jed to be able to get around. Walking on prosthetic legs isn't easy, and they're keeping that in mind when they're designing the new place to help it feel more like home for Jed here in Southern Oregon.
I guess without further ado, you're gonna tear that thing down.
And tear it down they did. Jared Allen retired from the NFL this year, and now he's helping vets get homes that fit their needs. Jed Morgan has 2 prosthetic legs and has lost some mobility in one of his arms after an IED exploded right next to him.
When I got blown up, I woke up a couple seconds later, and after a bit, I knew what was going on. I looked and I saw I'd lost my legs, so I already knew what was happening.
But he didn't let that moment take him down.
I told my buddies when they were carrying me out in the stretcher and everything that, God has a reason for it.
Jed started physical training and can now walk on his own after a lot of practice.
He would practice for hours and hours every single day until he had fallen over so many times he was bleeding.
Jared says Jed's service and his determination is something that made it so easy to build him a home.
It's men like Jed that they allow us to do what we want to do and live the American dream. So for me, there's no other way for me to serve my country but then serve those who serve us.
And now, Jed is looking forward to being able to serve himself. The freedom of independence, both for his country and for his everyday life. Even though this flagpole has a half-inch thick plate of steel covering the insides, someone was still able to get inside and lower the flag around 6 feet. The owner says it's not going to be that easy for long. Get these parking lots unclogged and start draining all this heavy rain that's coming down so they'll be able to reopen their businesses and restaurants when the time comes tomorrow. After firefighters are done on scene, they hose off their turnouts, as is a standard practice. Then back at the station, the turnouts are put through a specialized washing machine. But that's not the end of the cycle. If crews are dealing with hazardous chemicals on scene, this washing machine might not cut it. Now, in terms of those drivers, they just apparently aren't seeing these large signs behind me. This one's been up for about a week, but either they're not seeing the signs, the drivers, or they're not understanding those signs. So the on-ramp is closed, But the great thing about the human race is we are persistent. A few signs won't stop people from still trying to make it onto the highway.
They've done a marvelous job in redirecting traffic and keeping things moving as best they can.
And Philip would know. He's a retired contractor.
They go above and beyond for safety. That's their number one concern is safety.
And drivers were being safe, just maybe not noticing the signs.
I myself have watched at least 30 people flip Uis. Have you seen the same thing?
All day long. All day long.
And it could be like this all week. ODOT says they hope to open up the on-ramp come Friday. But until then, people are on their own.
People just don't pay attention.
The contractors have noticed too, saying the morning commute was like watching a log jam. People following each other to nowhere.
If you could say something to all these drivers, like that one who's turning around, what would you want to say to them?
Oh, you don't want to put it on the air.
The entire interchange is expected to be finished with the construction around late September. In Phoenix, Spencer Wilson, Newswatch 12.